מאיר.
אתה מוכן?
אני מוכן.
Okay. All right, folks, you are listening to... All right, folks, you are watching Yishai Fleisher TV. With me today is the Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem. Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, that's a great job. It's an amazing job to be Mayor of Jerusalem. That's awesome. Deputy Mayor, wow, you can do so much there. Amazing. Of the city, the reborn city of Jerusalem, and also the founder of the Israel Land Fund, Arieh King. Arieh, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Yishai, for having me here with you.
You know, just a few months ago, you asked me to MC a big event calling for getting rid of UNWRA from Jerusalem. UNWRA is the United Nations Refugee Relief Organization, but it's really created in order to create a refugee status for the Arabs of the land of Israel, the so-called Palestinians. They have been given a very special status as kind of eternal refugees. And this organization has also been proven to be a part of the terror network during this conflict that we're in right now, the October 7th conflict. They have a huge, humongous plot of land in Jerusalem in a very central neighborhood. And you were and continue to be part of the people who are trying to get them out, try to get this terror organization out of the city. Tell me a little bit about the situation. You wrote them a letter that said that they owe $7 million in fines and back pay. And you said, get out of this property. Is that happening?
What's happening that Yishai, that UNWRA is using two properties belonging to the state of Israel, the government of Israel, and the second is belonging to JNF, the Jewish National Fund. The property, one is in the center of town, neighborhood called Ma'alot Dafna. It's about 10 acres of land that is zoned for public buildings, belong to the housing ministry of the Israeli government. They are using it and they're not paying for using the property for decades. The other property is twice the size. It's more than 20 acres. This is in a neighborhood called Kalandia in north of Jerusalem, wow. next to the international airport of Atarot. This land was purchased by Jews at 1922, well, over 100 years ago, by Jewish philanthropists from Canada that gave the money to JNF, and they bought the land. Was used by Jews until 1948, and UNWRA just invaded to the land, and now they have their country clubs, schools, and a mosque, and of course also a monument for terrorists. So, as you said, I approached the government and to the JNF, and Baruch Hashem, I must say, at last, after so many years that I'm trying to kick out UNWRA from Jerusalem, at last, because of the war, because more and more people understood what I know, and I'm shouting, and I'm waving with this information for over 20 years, UNWRA is an enemy organization that is active inside the capital of Israel, in Jerusalem. UNWRA people have free of access to everywhere they want in Israel, to the parliament of Israel, to Eilat, to Tel Aviv, to every hospital, and they are working together, shoulder to shoulder, with our enemies in Gaza, the Hamas organization. And they are educating the children of Jerusalem, the Arab children, to hate the Jews, to ignore and not to accept the existence of a Jewish state called Israel. After the war, after more and more people saw in videos, in pictures, that UNWRA people were involved in kidnapping, in raping, in participating in the massacre in south of Israel, and using UNWRA compounds in Gaza Strip as a terror bases. So now, I said, thank God, at last, ministers in the government of Israel really wrote letters to UNWRA to pay for all the years that they didn't pay, and also gave them a first note to leave the properties and bring the properties back to JNF and to the Israeli government. And I hope it will happen.
So that was, I see this article on the 29th of May, 2024, that says the Israel Land Authority has informed UNWRA that it must vacate its East Jerusalem premises in Ma'alot Dafna within 30 days. Following the approval of demand by the Housing Minister Yitzchak Golknaf to evict UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees from any state land it is currently occupying. I like that word, occupying. I like that. In the letter to UNWRA, the ILA writes that it still owes a sum of 27 million shekel for operating on land belonging to Israel without consent for the last 7 years. So, okay, that was written on the 29th of May. Now it's middle of June. Is it moving forward? Is that happening, or does it need more steps in order to actually evict UNWRA from our land?
Look, it's happening. I can tell you that we have already plans. We have architects working in planning these areas for Jewish residents, for public buildings. It's going forward. As I said, I never felt so much understanding from official people, from ministers, like you mentioned, Minister Goldknopf, also Minister of Finance, Bezalel Smotrich. Every minister that I am approaching is much more willing to hear and to act. By the way, Yishai, we should know, and I'm calling to every audience of this show to know that 10 days ago, a new law was approved in one committee in the Knesset. Now it's in the Defense and Defense Committee. That the chairman of the committee is the Knesset member, Yuli Edelstein, and he must approve the law in the next months. And the law is saying that UNWRA is a terror organization. We should understand, once this law will pass, and it's on the table of Yuli Edelstein, so whoever knows Yuli Edelstein, if you know him personally or not, send him messages, email, call him, and demand him to do it ASAP. We don't have time, because if it will not be approved until 28th of July, we will need to wait another at least 8 months. We don't have this time.
What is the purpose of the law? What happens if the law passes?
Once the law will pass, it's mean that no one is allowed to be affiliate to this organization if he's Israeli citizen or residence. Meaning, you cannot work for UNWRA because it's working for terror organization. You cannot use their cars because their cars is cars belonging to terror organization. And of course, it will make easier to every minister to kick them out from property that belong to his ministry. And as I said, if Israel, I didn't say sorry, but if Israel will not pass this law, so UNWRA will continue acting in Jerusalem, in Judea and Samaria, everywhere in Israel, free to brainwash more and more youth from the Arab population, brainwash them and manipulate them to hate us and to fight against us and to hold the weapon against us.
Right. So they are not an organization they're not an organization that's teaching coexistence. They're teaching refugeeism, i.e., this is your land. Israel's a foreign occupier. You got to get rid of it. But at the same time, everything that you're saying about designating it a terror organization is not what the G7 has come out with. Just this past Friday, the group of 7 nations, the G7, warned Israel to stop any, quote, actions that weaken the Palestinian Authority. And this also said, that this communique also said, it was in Italy, a 3-day summit, it said that UNWRA, the United Nations Aid Agency for Palestinian Refugees, must be allowed to work unhindered in war-torn Gaza. Israel has accused UNWRA, the largest employer, this is an interesting fact, the largest employer in the territories, of turning a blind eye to Hamas activities and whose employees are actively aiding terror groups. So That's our accusation. But the G7, and I see a picture of the Pope, and I see all kinds of folks there. I see Biden. They're calling to make sure that UNRWA continues to operate normally. What do you say to that?
I'm saying to them, mind your own business. Don't. I know Biden like to use the word don't. So Biden, don't. You're not you, not Blinken, not anyone. Don't play with us. Don't manipulate our life to your own reasons, political reasons. You have your election issues. Just don't, Biden. And the people need to understand at the union, the work union of UNRWA in Gaza Strip. There are 29 people sitting in this union of the working union in UNRWA in Gaza Strip. From the 29, 25 of them are Hamas members. Another 2 are Jihad Islamic members. So all the employees there are affiliated. 99% of them are affiliated to terror organizations, and we saw how they used UNRWA cars to kidnap Jews from their settlements in south of Israel. And we saw how inside schools belong to UNRWA, inside clinics belong to UNRWA. Terrorists waited to the Israeli forces and killed our brothers that fought against terrorists that were hiding inside UNRWA compounds. And we saw, if you open the book, and I'm saying to all of these G7 leaders, did you ever open one school book that UNRWA is printing and delivering to children here in Jerusalem? You never did so, because you are hypocrites. You are just leaders of that behaving in a hypocrite way. Because if you would read that, and you would understand that UNRWA, that you are trying as G7 to protect, UNRWA is calling to Arab youth to participate in fighting against the existence of a Jewish state. I want to see how Biden will behave if any organization will call for something like that in United States, and the same is to every leader from the G7. And I want another thing to say. Look, Israel is in the front line of the battle between the Western world and the radical fundamentalistic Islamic world. Whatever you see in Israel, everywhere and everything that we are facing in Jerusalem, you will face it again. You will face it in Europe, in Madrid, in Barcelona, in London, in Paris, and in New York and Washington. It's not a question if, it is just a question of when. You will face the same radical Islam. They are being led by the same fundamentalistic leaders. So don't weak us here in Israel, because by doing that, you are weakening yourself in your own countries.
You know, Arieh King, you're the deputy mayor of Jerusalem, and I've had the pleasure of working with you many times. One of the things that is so surprising, you're ostensibly a right-wing leader, but I have seen many times that Arabs come to you, praise you, talk with you, want to see you and work with you. And I'm wondering about those relationships right now. Have they changed after October 7th? And those Arabs in Jerusalem Arabs who don't want to see their youth become radicalized, who don't want to see them being radicalized by Iran, by Qatar, by Turkey. Turkey also has an incursion into the Jerusalem Arabs' mindsets. What do they tell you? Is there a way out of this conflict? Like, is the only way to deal with this is to just have a big old battle and just fight out anybody who's jihadist? Or is there a way forward right now, given that we're in a pretty muddy swamp in Gaza, and there's a muddier swamp waiting for us in the north of Israel? What do Israeli Arabs, what do Jerusalem Arabs tell you, right now in this situation? Is Hamas riding high? Is there a way back from jihadism right now?
Look, I think that whatever I will tell you, this is based on what I feel, what I hear from Arabs that I'm meeting, and I'm meeting and talking with Arabs on daily basis. And I'm taking in account that some of the things that they are saying, they might don't believe really in 100% with everything, but they are saying it because they want me to hear that from them. But saying that, there is no doubt, Jerusalem is a quiet city. You see what's happening in the north of Israel, in the south of Israel. You see what's happening in Judea and Samaria, and Jerusalem is quiet. Why it's quiet? Because of the carrots and the sticks. It's not one stick, and it's not one carrot. It's few sticks that we use. The police is using them. Jerusalem municipality is using them against the radical Muslims. And it's also carrots that we give to the Arabs that are accepting living and want to live in a Jewish, Western, democratic city as part of the Israeli country. And what we are doing here, and this is why, as you said, many Arabs are calling me. Today I had a meeting here in my office here with a family that came from a Bet Hanina neighborhood. They know who am I. They know that I'm a right wing. Even some people will say I am a extremist right wing, but they are
no. Ultra right. That's the
ultra right. Ultra right. Knowing that they are coming here, not hiding in front of everybody, and they are saying, yeah, Arieh, you are the only one that really care about is Jerusalem. You are the only one that really care that Jerusalem will be real united, not just by title, but de facto, will be clean in East like in West, will be with roads and parking lots and swimming pools and playground and schools in East Jerusalem like in West Jerusalem. And I'm not hiding my motivation. I'm saying that because this is part of sovereignty. This is part of enforcing the Israeli law. This is part of educating them through the Israeli syllabus of the Minister of Education. And by doing that, we are pushing out UNWRA, we are pushing out Hamas, we are pushing out the PLO, all of this terrorist organization. If we will be there, they will not be there. If, God forbid, we will not be in this Jerusalem, then the population there, they will not have any choice but to be dependent and be connected to these enemies like UNWRA, like Hamas, Jihad Islami, or PLO. So I'm doing it from my own perspective. It's the best for us as Jews, but it's also the best for the Muslims that want to live under Israeli sovereignty. And I think the majority in Jerusalem, they know in which side of the bread the butter is spread. And they see how life is good in Jerusalem compared to any other Arab city, I would say, in the Middle East. And this is why Jerusalem is quiet. This is why you see Arabs coming into my office. And this is why you see me in Jerusalem helping Arabs, because as I see it, it's my duty as a deputy mayor.
And international forces, do you feel them very active? Do you feel in East Jerusalem, do you see Iran or Turkey or Qatar, or I guess UNWRA is also an international force in the end that's trying to make inroads into the young Arab mind. Do you see a lot of that? Is there any way to curb their influence?
The one that is the most disturbing and most influencing and the most, I would say, maybe even radical, it's UNWRA. UNWRA is everywhere. And they are, as I say, brainwashing the youth in their schools. They are supporting all of these anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic agendas, and all the others. If they exist, it's under the radar. It's behind the doors. They're not doing it publicly. UNWRA is doing it publicly in the streets everywhere. And this is why I'm focusing in UNRWA, and this is why I'm pushing to this law that to be approved. And this will pass a message to UNRWA and to the rest of our enemy organizations that are active here in Jerusalem. The other countries, like you mentioned, Qatar and Turkey and Iran, you see them here and there, but not so like UNRWA.
So there's a law that's been placed on the desk of Yuli Edelstein at the Defense Committee that would designate UNRWA as a terror organization, and there's also a move to get rid of UNRWA from Jerusalem. It's a separate track. Am I correct? That's
correct.
A separate track. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is one track that we are already on it, and this is by claiming back the Jewish property and claiming the money that they didn't pay for all of these years using this Jewish or government property. This is one. Second is the law that is now waiting, and as I said, we have a window of 1 month until July 28th to approve it in the Knesset. And therefore, Yuli Edelstein, and I'm calling anyone that know him or have time to call him and send him emails to demand today, to call to the meeting in his committee and to approve the law so it will get to the Knesset to final approve.
I will text him today based on what you're saying. Arieh King is the deputy mayor of Jerusalem. That's right. Not Jerusalem on high, not Jerusalem, Ohio, or Pennsylvania. Jerusalem, Israel, united and strong. He has great relations with the Arabs of Eastern Jerusalem. At the same time, getting the nationalist vote, the so-called ultra-nationalist vote in Jerusalem. That's a very interesting reality, that it's specifically those Arabs that want to see normalization and a decent life turn to him and people like him for help to develop a decent life in Jerusalem. Also the founder of the Israel Land Fund. Arieh King, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Yishai.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed Arieh King. And we here at Yishai Fleisher TV want to bring you the best of what's happening here in the Middle East, a little a window into truth in a world totally subsumed by lies and flooded, as the Al-Aqsa flood is just a flood of lies. So we give you true news here from Jerusalem, from Israel, from the land of Israel, from Hebron, and from this region, the Abrahamic region. The first step towards a normalized Abrahamic region is getting rid of evil forces like UNRWA. And really, we're going through a lot of bureaucratic steps, but the answer is simple. These guys are bad. They really want to unteach. They want to radicalize the young Arab mind. They want to create refugee-ism as an ism. There's Palestinian-ism. There's refugee-ism. And these isms are all anti-Israel, anti-Judaism, anti-the Jewish story, anti-Bible. And so it's incredibly important that we fight them. And we do that here at Yishai Fleisher TV, along with, of course, the great soldiers of Israel that we pray for. And there's various soldiers. There's soldiers on hilltops. There's soldiers in political offices. And, of course, there's soldiers in green and in other uniforms fighting the battle of Israel. Israel needs to be strong, specifically now in this very challenging time. God bless you, folks. Please subscribe to Yishai Fleisher TV. And I wish you blessings from the land of blessings, and shalom.